What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how to change the differential fluid in your F-150. So according to the manual and the dealer that I talked to, the differential fluid should be changed every 60,000 miles, so that's what I'm going to do. Other people may do more or less depending on how they drive their vehicle, but that's what I'm going to do. Now to do this change, the dealer was going to charge me about $275. I was able to get the gasket sealer and the oil for about $75, so I'm going to do it myself and save some money. Now the differential fluid you're supposed to use, recommended by the dealer and the manual, is Motocraft 75 weight 85, but I'm going to be using Redline 75 weight 85. It's the same weight, just a different make. Now the F-150 doesn't have a drain plug, so to remove the fluid, to drain all the fluid, you're going to have to remove the differential cover to let the fluid out, and then when you put it back on, you have to use a gasket maker seal around the perimeter that makes its own gasket. So I'm going to show you how that works as well. Okay, and as we get under here, here is our differential, and these are all the bolts that you have to remove to get the cover off to drain the fluid. It's 1/2 inch size socket or wrench to remove all those, and then what we need to do is we need to take those clips that are holding those lines up there, and those just pop off nice and easily. So, and I'm just gonna go around and break all these loose. Now, when you take these off, you want to leave the top ones in to hold the cover so that it doesn't just fall on you. So we're going to remove these outside ones first. And we'll put all these here. And this is going to make a big mess, so you're going to want to make sure that you have a drain pan. Yep. You're going to want to make sure you have a drain pan to collect all this fluid. Pop off like that. Oh, okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah, and you can see as I loosen that up, more fluid's coming out. Pretty pleased it doesn't look too dirty. I mean, it's dirty, but it's not as bad as I was expecting. It's also important to note where those studs go with the threads, so you know which bolts go where when you put the cover back on. Okay, so it looks like that has drained as much as it's going to drain on its own right now. So I spent most of the time getting the rest of the bolts out while it was draining, so I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of them out. Okay, there's the bolt, and there's the cover. Okay. Okay, so now that the cover is off, you can see inside the differential, and you can see the drive shaft where it meets that big ring, and there's your differential in there. And this is a locking rear differential, and overall it looks pretty clean in there. So I might wipe off some of this debris up here, and then I'm going to need to clean this off. And we'll want to cover that to make sure we don't get any debris in there. And here is the gasket, and we're gonna go ahead and throw this one away because we won't need it, because we'll be making our gasket seal. And we'll go ahead and clean up the edges on this one too, so that we have a nice looking seal. Okay, so here is our diff cover right here, and you can see it's got a lot of rust and dirt and corrosion around there, so we're going to clean that up. And I'm going to use an angle grinder with a wire wheel on it just to make the process a little bit easier. You can certainly use steel wool if you want and scrub it. I just think that this is going to be a little bit easier using the angle grinder, and it'll clean it up quicker and easier. But once you're done, you're going to want to make sure that you clean out all the debris really well, so that's not in your differential. And as you can see, that's doing a really nice job of just cleaning it up and getting all that rust out of there and making it smooth. So we're just going to finish up the rest of this and get ready to put it back on. And now we'll do the same thing to the edge on the differential, clean that up as well. Then we'll be ready to put on the gasket and put the differential cover back on. And I'm just gonna put these clean shop rags in here to kind of help keep some of the debris out while I'm cleaning this edge of the differential. I would not recommend paper towels because they just fall apart and blow around and can leave like lint. And just a little tip for you guys, these wires kind of get in the way with this piece right here. So there's a couple bolts on top that you can take off. They're 1/2 inch. So you can take those off and move these wires out of the way and just make your life a little bit easier. Okay, and now that we got that all cleaned up and looking good, we are ready to put the cover back on with the gasket sealer. Okay, so I have the differential on the truck cleaned. I have the cover cleaned as best I could. So now we're gonna put the gasket maker on the cover and put it on. Now the instructions for that are to cut the nozzle about like this so that you can apply about a 1/4 inch wide bead around the perimeter of the cover. And you're gonna wanna go around the inside of these bolt holes. Don't bother going out around there because there's no point really. You only need to have the seal right here, but you just follow around the inside of these bolts just like that in one continuous bead. And then once you've made that, you wanna put it on the vehicle right away and finger tighten all the bolts until it's finger tight, and then let it sit for about an hour. And then you're gonna wanna torque it down to about 30 foot-pounds. And then after that, you wait about 24 hours for it to dry and put your fluid in. It's like really intense toothpaste. Okay, so now that we got the gasket on the cover, you don't want to put it on the differential itself either. You just want to put it on just the cover. So I'm going to make sure that I get this lined up. Just like that. Line our holes up. Sticking it just like that. Put a couple bolts in to hold it in place. And you want to get these finger tight. Okay, now that we have the cover on there, fairly snug, not super tight, but you know, snuggish, we're gonna let it sit there for about an hour to let it set a little bit. And then after an hour, then we can tighten it down to about 30 foot-pounds. So we'll check back in an hour. Okay, so it's been an hour and it's time to torque these bolts down. We torque them to 30 foot-pounds and we will just go around the differential and torque all of those down. I'm gonna go in kind of like an opposite pattern from opposite sides just so it torques down evenly. see it squeezing out right there. And it's really good. You can see the goo, the gasket maker, coming out the edge. So you know that that's sealing really well and getting tight. So that's really good. And one more thing we can do is put these little clips back on bolts. Just like that. They just snap right on. Just like that. Okay, awesome. Now that we got our bolts torqued and tight and we have all the wires back in place and clipped onto those bolts, now we're gonna wait 24 hours for the gasket to dry, and then we can put our differential fluid in tomorrow. And it's important to wait to let that dry, because if you don't, the gasket sealer might not be dry all the way, and when you put the differential fluid in, it could leak, and you don't want that. So wait at least overnight and 24 hours if you can. So we'll do that and check back in tomorrow. Okay, so it's been 24 hours and everything is dry and ready to put in fluid. We're going to be putting in the Redline 75 weight 85, which is recommended by the dealer and the manual. Although they recommend the Motocraft brand, the Redline should be just as good. So let's put it in. One other thing to mention is you're going to need about 2.75 quarts of the differential fluid. And even though the manual says 5.5 pints, that converts to roughly 2.75 quarts. Okay, here's our fill bolt, and you can just use a 3/8 breaker bar, and you should be able to loosen that. And once you break it loose, you should be able to just use a ratchet and get that out. Perfect. Now the end of it is magnetized, so you can see it's doing its job. It's capturing a little bit of like metal shavings in there. So what we're going to want to do is wipe that off and clean that before, oh yeah, look at all that sludge. Clean that off before we put it back in. Okay, so since that fill hole is pretty small and hard to get a funnel in there, I'm gonna be using this funnel with a long neck on it, and I'm actually gonna be reaching over the tire to fill it in instead of laying underneath, and that should be an easier way to do this. Now you fill this until it starts leaking out that fill hole. That's the only way to tell. Now some differentials will need an additive. However, this one does not. This one happens to be a 2017 electronic rear locker, and it just does not require the additive. And that's because of the type of differential oil I'm using. So you'll just want to double check with your specific model if you need it or not, but this one does not. So yeah, okay, yep. Now it's dripping, and that'll just level off right at the proper amount, because we don't want to put too much in, because that doesn't give the oil room to expand when it gets hot. So we'll just let that naturally drip out and level off to the proper amount, and that'll be good. Yep, so you can see that dripping right there. And another thing we want to do is really inspect this cover and the seal in the gasket and make sure that it's dried and it's not leaking. And you can see right here that this drip is just coming from the overflow, and it's not happening where the cover is on the differential, so that's good. Okay, and now while we're waiting for the rest of that oil to level off, we can go ahead and put Teflon tape on this drain plug. So we'll just wrap that on, and you want to wrap it the same way that you're going to be screwing the bolt on, so it doesn't mess up the Teflon tape. And the way I like to do it is you face the bolt the way it's going to go in to the hole, and then you just spin it like that, so it just wraps on just like that. And just a wrap or two should do it. And you're going to want to try to cover all threads if possible. Perfect, and now that's ready to install, and don't forget to clean that out, the magnetic strip. Now you can see that the dripping, it's not really pouring out, it's just kind of a slow drip now. So that means that we're pretty close right there to the proper level, and we can go ahead and put our drain plug back in. Make sure you have your Teflon tape the right way, and just thread it on nice and easy. Go ahead and wipe up any of this excess oil so that when you come back and check it later, you can tell if it's leaking or not. And it shouldn't, because we've done everything correctly. But just to be safe. And there you have it. There's the finished result. Looks awesome. No leaking, brand new seal. Got fresh fluid in there. Drain plug is in there securely. All of our wires are back in place. The seal looks nice and dry. And it's ready for another 60,000 miles. All right, and that is it. We have successfully changed the differential fluid in our rear differential of our 2017 F-150. And in the description, I'm going to list links to the products that I used in this video, the differential oil, the gasket maker, all that stuff, so you can find that information there. And you can also find more information about this on page 400 of your manual. That's where it was for me. So if you have your manual, you can look in page 400 and find this information also. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found it useful. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. That really helps me out so that I can create more videos for you guys in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.